Well, we've been talking a lot about just what President Trump said at that press conference at the White House a little earlier. It was an announcement on defence, but he also took a number of questions from the reporters gathered there. So he was able to put to rest a story that's dominated the internet in the past few days, serious rumours about the president's health.
Indeed, it's thought the speculation was in part sparked by this photo from late August showing bruising on the back of Donald Trump's hand. After that was caught on camera, claims about his health gathered tens of millions of views across X, TikTok and Facebook.
Now, the president's last public engagement before today's press conference had been a cabinet meeting held a week ago where he spoke for nearly 3¼ hours. Now, the president did address the issue of these rumours circulating on Sunday night. He posted on his Truth Social network that he had never felt better.
And a little earlier, as we were mentioning, President Trump addressed those rumours at the White House, defining them as fake news.
Well, it's fake news. You know, it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people know I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent.
Well, Pete Seat and Joanna Masca are still with us here. Joanna, there's something incredibly distasteful about discussing someone's demise like this, as it was rumoured on the internet over the weekend. What do you make of it all? Or did President Trump largely bring these conversations about, considering how many times he attacked Joe Biden last year for his health?
Well, that's exactly right. You know, it is awful. It's awful that people are cheering on someone else's demise, especially the President of the United States, because anyone, and Pete and I have both worked for presidents of the United States, if you have worked in that office, you know how important it is that that president is in command. And I would never wish for anything to happen to a president of the United States of America. And yet we saw for many years, President Trump and others in the Republican Party call into question Joe Biden's health. There should have been questions from the press as well, because there were legitimate problems with his health. He was old. And it turns out Donald Trump is also old. He also would have been in the same graduating high school class, just a couple of years younger, but they would have been in the same high school together. So there are going to be continued questions on this. I do think, at the end of the day, my biggest problem is that we're rooting for each other's destruction when we root for the worst for the president of the United States. And I wish that we would stop doing it.
And Pete, we all know how things can, pretty much take on a very wild turn when they start being speculated over on social media. But do you agree with Joanna that if you give it, and Donald Trump has talked about Joe Biden's health a lot, that you've got to take it? He's got to take it now, the speculation about his state of health.
Well, there was plenty of evidence to support that Joe Biden's health was rapidly declining. And we also know, thanks to some enterprising reporting by a number of journalists in Washington, D.C., just how bad the situation was in the West Wing and how Joe Biden was being hidden from the public and not even making phone calls or attending meetings on what were considered his, quote, bad days. We know from some of this reporting that he would call, for example, Joe Scarborough from MSNBC on the, quote, good days. So Joe would always have a conversation with a lucid and very in touch Joe Biden versus what some staff were seeing throughout that presidency. And a lot of staff were kept away from Joe Biden. Only very close senior staff were able to interact with him. I do agree wholeheartedly, though, that it's disgusting to watch some of the conversations that have been taking place online. And I believe that there's a segment of the Democratic Party that saw the health questions about Joe Biden work politically, and they're taking their turn at it, hoping that it works politically in their favor. But it is sad. It's a sad state of affairs that we confuse policy disagreement with despising a human being.
Well, that is all we have got time for on this topic. Pete, Joanna, stay with us.
You're watching The Context USA on BBC News.